My nursing bag hit the basement floor with a heavy thud, the sound echoing through the concrete walls. For a moment I froze on the steps, one hand gripping the railing, my breath catching in my throat. What I was seeing didn't make sense. There, near the old water heater, my children's lives had been stuffed into a corner. 2 twin beds were pushed close together, each topped with hastily made blankets. Their dressers, toy chests, and stacks of school supplies sat nearby like afterthoughts. Above them, cobwebs stretched across the ceiling corners, swaying slightly. In the draft, on the beds rested Ethan's threadbare teddy bear and Lily's favorite purple unicorn, perched neatly as if that could somehow make the space feel like a bedroom. My voice cracked as it left me, bouncing off the cement walls. Mum, Dad. The basement smelled faintly of detergent, layered over the familiar damp mustiness that no dehumidifier had ever fully cleared out. The low hum of the washing machine filled the silence, a cruel reminder that this space was never meant for children. From the top of the stairs, my mother appeared, bouncing my sister Vanessa's baby on her hip. Little Noah, her face lit up as she cooed down at him, then faltered when she noticed me standing frozen halfway down the steps. "Oh, Marissa, you're home early," she said, avoiding my eyes. I gestured at the sad little cluster of beds and belongings. "What is this? Why are Ethan and Lily's things down here?" My father appeared behind her, arms crossed in his familiar stance of authority. "We needed to make some changes," he said flatly. "Vanessa needs a proper office, space to work from home, and Noah deserves a real nursery." The words scraped across me like glass. A real nursery. As opposed to what? A fake one. Ethan and Lily already had real bedrooms upstairs. My mother sighed, the sound painfully familiar from my childhood. Disappointment wrapped in exasperation. "Marissa, don't be difficult. Vanessa's situation is different. She needs stability right now, and Noah is at a critical stage in his development, and my children aren't." My voice trembled, but my hands curled into fists at my sides. Mom bounced Noah a little higher as he fussed. "The twins should be grateful they even have a roof over their heads. Many children don't." Her words knocked the breath from me. Just 3 months ago, I'd swallowed every ounce of pride I had and moved back here after my divorce. The twins quiet in the back seat as I explained that Grandma and Grandpa's house was just for a little while. I had promised them safety. I had agreed to contribute to expenses, even though this had been my childhood home, my supposed safety net. Then Vanessa had arrived, newborn Noah in her arms, her marriage crumbling just like mine. Unlike me, she had been welcomed with open arms. Anything she needed, she got. And the cooing over Noah, it never stopped. The twins were told to play more quietly, to laugh less, to tiptoe during nap times, as if their very existence disturbed. The precious baby. I swallowed hard. "You had no right to move their things without asking me." Dad's voice snapped like a whip. "They're our grandchildren, Marissa, and your sister's career and Noah's development are critical right now. The basement is perfectly adequate. I climbed 2 steps until I was nearly eye level with them. "It's damp down here. Ethan has asthma." "You're overreacting," Dad said in his usual dismissive tone. "Vanessa needed the space more, and she's trying to build a future for Noah," Mum added quickly. There. It was the truth I had always known but never wanted to face. My children mattered less. They always had. I reached for my phone, my hands no longer trembling. Carla, a colleague of mine at the hospital, had mentioned last week that her mother-in-law's rental cottage was empty. "Emergency housing only," she'd said kindly. After overhearing me vent about sharing a house with my sister and her baby, Mum's eyes narrowed as she noticed my phone. "What are you doing?" "Making other arrangements." I typed the words. Quickly, a message to Carla. "Is that rental cottage still available?" Dad scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. Where would you go on a nurse's salary? You need us. Mum shifted Noah to her other hip. Vanessa is family too, Marissa. You can't expect us to treat her differently just because you were here first. This isn't about who was here first, I said, descending the steps, to pick up Lily's clarinet case, carelessly placed beside a pipe. This is about respect. My children deserve better than abasement. From the top of the stairs, Vanessa appeared, her face a mix of guilt and defiance. The twins will adjust, she said. Kids are resilient. Funny how that only applies to my kids, I muttered, brushing dust from the case. You're overreacting, Mom repeated, her voice firm. The basement is perfectly fine. We're doing you a favor, letting you stay here at all. A favor. As though I hadn't been buying groceries, paying utilities, and covering night shifts so I could watch Noah during the day while Vanessa focused on her mental health. My phone buzzed with Carla's reply. Available immediately. Call me. I stared at the screen, the basement's cold cement pressing into my bones. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision made today. This was a line being crossed, one I could no longer ignore. Later that night, I tucked Ethan and Lily into their new beds. Ethan curled protectively around his teddy bear, his wheezing finally quieting an hour later. Lily, trying to be brave, arranged her unicorns on the concrete ledge beside her bed. But I had caught her wiping tears when she thought I wasn't looking. After they fell asleep, I crept upstairs for a glass of water. The kitchen was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge. Vanessa's laptop glowed on the counter, left open after she went to settle Noah. I was about to turn away when a message notification popped up. Her name appeared, followed by a string of blue bubbles. I shouldn't have looked, but something tugged at me, the same instinct that makes me check a patient's chart. One more time when something feels off. I leaned closer. Mom said we can just put them in the basement, Vanessa had typed. The message was dated 3 weeks ago. Marissa works so much, she barely noticed, and the twins are used to making do. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp. Her friend's reply was littered with laughing emojis. Your sister is such a doormat. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. This wasn't some impulsive decision today. It had been planned, calculated. They had conspired while I cooked meals, cleaned up after everyone, and watched Noah so Vanessa could rest. Noah's cries floated down from upstairs, followed by Mum's soothing voice. Footsteps on the stairs creaked. I hurriedly stepped away from the laptop, filling my glass with trembling hands. You're still up, Vanessa said lightly as she entered, no trace of guilt in her voice. Mum's with Noah. He's teething. I know, I answered flatly. I've been giving him teething tablets during my shifts with him. That night, after the twins were asleep, I found myself at the kitchen table with my parents and sister. Vanessa rocked Noah against her shoulder. The three of them sat together, a united front. I stood across from them, arms crossed, refusing to sit in this picture of false family harmony. Dad spoke first. The basement arrangement is temporary, until we figure out something more permanent. What does that mean exactly? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Mom adjusted Noah's blanket. Well, since Vanessa plans to stay indefinitely, we need to consider everyone's long-term needs. Indefinitely, I repeated, the word slicing into me. My therapist says stability is crucial right now, Vanessa chimed in, sipping tea Mom had made for her. Noah needs consistency. And what about my children's stability? The words burst from me. Dad stiffened. Don't be dramatic, Marissa. They have a roof over their heads. A roof I help pay for, I shot back. My contribution covers more than a third of this household. A glance passed between my parents, one I knew too well. Something was coming about those contributions. Mom began carefully. We've been thinking it makes more sense to pool all resources. Vanessa needs help with Noah's expenses. And since you're already established in your career, the realization hit me like a physical blow. You've been giving my money to Vanessa. Not all of it, Dad said quickly. Just helping her get back on her feet, while my kids sleep in a basement. My hands pressed against the table. Steadying me, Dad leaned back, waving a hand dismissively. If you're that unhappy, Marissa, you could pitch a tent in the yard. At least the twins would have windows then. The words hung in the air, cruel and heavy. No one laughed. Even Vanessa looked uncomfortable, though she didn't defend me. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just unfair. It was dangerous. For Ethan's health, for Lily's spirit, for the example I was setting by staying. The next morning, I stood at the kitchen sink, watching the early light spill through the blinds. My coffee sat untouched in my hands, cooling rapidly as my thoughts churned. The decision I had made in the middle of the night still throbbed in my chest like a heartbeat. I couldn't stay here. Not another week. Not another day. The sound of tiny footsteps pulled me from my fog. Ethan shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes, his teddy bear dangling from one hand. His pajamas were wrinkled, his hair sticking out in every direction. Behind him, Lily trailed in with her unicorn clutched tight, her lips pressed together the way she did when she was trying not to cry. "Mummy," she whispered, tugging on my sleeve. "It's cold downstairs." Her words cracked something deep inside me. I pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her hair. Ethan leaned against my side, silent but heavy with unspoken feelings. I crouched down so I could look them both in the eye. "Listen," I said gently. "How would you feel if we had our own place? A little cottage, just us three." Lily's eyes widened, like a real house. "Yes," I whispered, forcing a smile. "Our own space, with windows and warm rooms. No basements." Ethan's lips curved into the smallest smile, and he nodded. "Can we take Mr. Bear?" "Of course," I said, my throat tightening. "And all of your things. Everything that's yours stays with you." Their shoulders seemed to relax, just a little. But I knew the weight they carried wasn't something children their age should ever bear. When my parents came downstairs later, I was already at the stove, flipping pancakes. I didn't say a word as Mom poured her coffee and Dad scrolled through his phone at the table. Vanessa breezed in with Noah, handing him straight to Mom as though it were routine. "Marissa," Dad said casually, not looking up, "I think you should increase your contribution for groceries. With Noah starting on solid foods, the costs are climbing." The spatula froze in my hand. I took a deep breath, then set it down with deliberate care. "Actually," I said quietly, "I won't be contributing anymore. The kids and I are moving out." The room fell silent. Mom nearly dropped her mug. Vanessa blinked at me as if I'd spoken a foreign language. "What did you just say?" Dad asked slowly, lowering his phone. "You heard me," I said evenly. "I found a rental cottage. Carla's mother-in-law owns it, and it's available. Right away, we'll be out within the week." Lily looked up at me from her chair, her small face brave but anxious. Ethan clutched his fork tightly, eyes darting between me and his grandparents. "You can't be serious," Mum said sharply. "That cottage is out in the country. How will you manage with your night shifts?" "I'll manage," I replied. "Better than watching my kids sleep in a damp basement." Dad's face reddened. "Don't you dare throw that in our faces. We gave you shelter when you needed it. You also gave my children the message that they don't matter." I shot back. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably, her hand bouncing Noah gently, as though the rhythm could erase the tension in the room. "Marissa, don't be dramatic. The kids will get used to it. You always overreact." I turned to her, my voice low but firm. "If someone had suggested Noah sleep in the basement, would you have allowed it?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't answer. "That's what I thought," I said, gathering plates from the counter. "You're making a huge mistake," Mom said, her voice rising. running off to some cottage without family support. You'll be isolated. And what about money? Vanessa can barely keep afloat, and you think you can carry a whole household alone? I already do, I said, looking her straight in the eye. Every bill I've paid here, every shift I've worked, every meal I've cooked, I've been carrying it all while you favoured Vanessa. Dad slammed his fist on the table, rattling the silverware. Enough. If you walk out that door, don't expect to come crawling back when it all falls apart. My heart pounded, but my voice remained steady. I won't need to crawl back. That night, while the house settled into silence, I began packing. I worked quickly but quietly, folding clothes into bags, tucking Lily's unicorns into a box, wrapping Ethan's books in spare towels. Every sound seemed louder in the quiet house. The crinkle of tape, the squeak of the zipper. Lily stirred awake once, blinking sleepily as she saw me packing her things. Are we really leaving, Mummy? Yes. Sweetheart, I whispered, tucking her back in. We're going somewhere better. She sighed softly, a sound of both relief and weariness, and fell back asleep. By the third night, most of our belongings were packed. Carla had confirmed that the cottage would be ready by Friday. I just had to hold on until then, but the tension in the house was unbearable. Every meal was heavy with silence, every glance a dagger. Mum made pointed comments about ungrateful children. Dad muttered about loyalty. Vanessa avoided me altogether, focusing on Noah and her laptop. On Thursday evening, as I returned from a late shift, I overheard voices in the living room. The door was cracked open just enough. She's really going through with it, Mom's voice said, laced with disbelief. Good riddance, Dad muttered. She's been nothing but a burden since the divorce. Vanessa sighed. At least it'll be quieter. Noah needs calm. Their words sliced through me, each one sharper than the last. I stood there for a long moment, gripping my bag, my throat burning. Then I turned away, walking silently upstairs to check on Ethan and Lily. They were asleep, curled together on Lily's bed in the basement. Their innocence was my only anchor. The next morning, I loaded the last of our boxes into my car, before sunrise. My parents didn't come out to see us off. Vanessa watched from the doorway, Noah on her hip, but she didn't say a word. Seatbelts, I reminded the kids, gently as they climbed in. Ethan buckled his bear in beside him. Lily pressed her unicorn against the window, staring out as though committing the house to memory. As I started the car, a strange calm washed over me. Fear and sadness tangled in my chest, but beneath them was something new. Strength, resolve. We pulled away from the driveway, the house shrinking in the rearview mirror. Lily broke the silence first. Mummy, yes, sweetheart. Does this mean we get to paint our new rooms? I smiled, tears blurring the road ahead. Yes, baby, any color you want. Ethan leaned forward from the back seat. Can we have bunk beds? We'll see, I said softly. We'll make it ours. As the miles stretched between us and that house, I realized something important. I wasn't just leaving behind a toxic arrangement. I was breaking free from years of being the lesser daughter, the overlooked sibling, the dismissed child. This time, I was choosing differently. For me, for them. When we arrived at the cottage, Carla was waiting on the porch, waving warmly. The place was small but sturdy, with white siding and a wraparound porch that creaked underfoot. The air smelled of pine and fresh-cut grass inside. The cottage was modest, 2 bedrooms, a cozy living room, a kitchen with outdated appliances. But it was ours. As Ethan and Lily ran through the empty rooms, their laughter echoing against the bare walls, I felt something I hadn't in months. Hope. Carla handed me the keys with a smile. Welcome home. I held the keys tightly, the cool metal pressing into my palm. For the first time in a long time, the weight I carried felt lighter. But as I watched the kids race from room to room, I knew this was only the beginning. Leaving my parents' house was one battle. Building a new life with the long shifts, the bills, the loneliness, that would be the real fight. Still, I glanced at Ethan and Lily, their joy spilling through the air like sunlight. And I knew one thing for certain: no matter what came next, we would face it together. The first night in the cottage was both strange and comforting. The walls were bare, the air faintly musty from sitting closed up, and the kids' mattresses were still on the floor. Yet there was laughter, real, unrestrained laughter, as Ethan and Lily chased each other across the tiny living room. I sat on the old couch Carla had helped drag in, exhaustion heavy in my bones, but my heart felt lighter than it had in months. That night, after tucking the kids into their new room, I sat at the small kitchen table and stared at the pile of bills and my work schedule. The numbers didn't lie. Between rent, utilities, groceries, and daycare when my shifts didn't align with school hours, the math was tight, too tight. But every time I thought of the basement back at my parents' house, of Lily whispering that it was cold, of Ethan clutching his teddy bear against the damp air, I knew I'd make it work. Somehow, the following week tested that resolve. The cottage was charming, but it needed work. The heater sputtered unpredictably, leaving us huddled under blankets some mornings. The plumbing groaned when I ran hot water, as though complaining about the effort. And the internet connection was spotty at best, a problem when Ethan's school assignments moved online. Still, we managed. The kids adjusted quickly, delighted to pick their own paint colors. Lily chose lavender for her half of the bedroom, while Ethan demanded a bold blue. I spent my evenings after long shifts rolling paint onto walls, humming softly as they danced around with brushes, leaving streaks of color that made the room truly theirs. But as we built our little sanctuary, the outside world pressed in it. Started with the phone calls. Marissa, Mom's voice dripped with disapproval. The kids looked tired in the pictures you sent. Are you sure this cottage is suitable? Perfectly suitable, I replied evenly, though I was bone-tired from a string of night shifts. You know, Vanessa could use help during the day, she continued smoothly. If you'd just move back, we could all work together as a family. Not happening, I said firmly, ending the call. Then came Dad's messages, less subtle. If you need extra money, you could sell that car. It's not like you're going far these days. Followed by, Vanessa deserves the support. She's struggling. I ignored them. But each message was a reminder that distance didn't silence their judgment. One Saturday afternoon, as the kids played outside in the crisp autumn air, a car pulled into the driveway. Dust swirled as it crunched over the gravel. My stomach sank when I recognized the dark sedan. Mom stepped out, followed by Vanessa, carrying Noah. Lily froze mid-swing, her smile fading. Ethan grabbed her hand protectively, eyes narrowing. Even at their young age, they understood what this visit meant. Marissa, Mom called brightly, walking up the path as if she owned the place. We thought we'd drop by to see the kids. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway, unannounced. We're family, she said, brushing past me as though that excused everything. We don't need an invitation. Vanessa followed silently, settling on the couch with Noah while Mum scanned the cottage critically. Her gaze lingered on the old heater, the unpainted kitchen cabinets, the pile of laundry waiting for me in the corner. This place is quaint, she said, her voice lined with judgment. It's ours, I replied flatly. Lily and Ethan hovered near me, their small hands clutching the hem of my shirt. You don't look well, Marissa, Mom continued, her tone shifting to false concern. Are you sleeping at all? Working too much? I'm fine, I said shortly. Vanessa finally spoke, her eyes on her baby instead of me. You don't have to prove anything, you know. We'd make room for you again. I laughed bitterly. Room in the basement. Her lips tightened. She didn't answer. Mom's gaze hardened. Don't be ungrateful. We did what was best for everyone. You need to stop being so sensitive. The words ignited something in me. Years of being brushed aside, minimized, dismissed. Boiled over, sensitive, I snapped. Putting my children in a basement while your precious Vanessa and Noah got the royal treatment, that wasn't sensitivity. That was cruelty. And I won't let you rewrite it. The kids flinched at the sharpness in my voice, but they stayed close, as though they understood I was standing up for them, for us. Mom's single quotes as face flushed, but she pressed on. You're making a mistake, Marissa. This independence of yours, it won't last. And when it falls apart, don't expect us to clean up the mess. I opened the door, my hand firm on the knob. Then I guess you won't have to worry. Goodbye. For the first time in my life, I watched my mother hesitate, her mouth opening then closing without words. Vanessa stood quietly, rocking Noah, her expression unreadable. They left without another word. When the car disappeared down the road, Lily whispered, Mommy, are they mad at us? I knelt, pulling both kids into my arms. No, sweetheart. They're just upset because we're strong without them. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat alone at the kitchen table, exhaustion pressing down on me. The quiet of the cottage was both comforting and heavy. For the first time, there was no one to lean on, no backup, no safety net. But there was also no one to undermine me. Bills piled high. Work left me drained. The heater still sputtered. But when I peeked into the kids' room and saw Lily sprawled across her lavender hearth and Ethan snoring softly under his blue walls, I knew it was worth every sacrifice. A week later, Carla stopped by with groceries, setting the bags on the counter. You look wiped out, she said, eyeing me. Just long shifts, I admitted, rubbing my temples. She hesitated before speaking again. Listen, I know this is hard, but I've been thinking. You don't always have to do it alone. Maybe we can trade off. My husband can help fix the heater this weekend, and I can watch the kids sometimes when you're on night duty. Tears pricked my eyes at her kindness. Carla, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, she interrupted gently. I'm offering. Everyone deserves a little help. For the first time, I let myself exhale. Not everyone saw me as a burden. Some people actually wanted to help. The months that followed weren't easy. There were nights I came home so tired I could barely climb the stairs. Mornings I counted coins. At the grocery store, evenings I patched the kids' shoes because buying new ones wasn't an option. But there were also moments of light. Ethan joined the school's science club, his eyes shining as he showed me his homemade volcano. Lily joined choir, her sweet voice filling the cottage with music. They began to bloom in ways they never had before. One evening, as we sat around the kitchen table, painting pictures, Lily looked up suddenly. Mummy, I like it here better than Grandma's house. Me too, Ethan added quickly. It feels like home. My chest tightened with emotion. That's because it is home, I whispered. But just when I thought the worst was behind us, another storm gathered on the horizon. A letter arrived one Tuesday evening, tucked between bills and junk mail. The return address made my stomach. Dropped it was from my parents' lawyer. The letter trembled in my hands as I sat at the kitchen table. The envelope bore my parents' address, but the name in the corner, their lawyer's office, made my stomach twist. I slid a finger under the seal, unfolding the crisp white paper inside. The words blurred for a moment before my eyes focused. Formal notice of intent to reclaim financial assets contributed during residency. I read it again and again. My parents weren't just cutting me off. They were demanding repayment for the months I had lived under their roof, for groceries, utilities, even wear and tear on the property. It was absurd. It was cruel. My hand shook as I set the letter down. Ethan and Lily were colouring at the table, oblivious, humming quietly to themselves. I forced a smile when Ethan held up his picture, a rocket ship blasting into the stars. "Look, Mum, we're going somewhere better." The innocence in his voice steadied me. I couldn't let them see my fear. That night, after they were asleep, I called Carla. She answered groggily, but listened as I read the letter aloud. There was a pause. Then her voice, firm and certain. "Marissa, this isn't about money. This is about control. They don't want you to stand on your own." "I know," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "But what if they really push this? What if they take me to court?" "Then you fight," she said simply. "And you won't fight alone. I'll connect you with a lawyer friend of mine. She'll tell you exactly what you're dealing with." The next week was a blur of appointments and paperwork. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Angela, confirmed what I suspected. "They don't have a case," she said, flipping through the letter with a smirk. "They can't legally demand repayment for family support, especially since you contributed financially while you lived there. This is intimidation, nothing more." Relief flooded me, but anger quickly followed. My parents had tried to use the law as another weapon. Angela leaned forward, her tone softening. "The real question is, what do you want to do about it? You can ignore it and let it fade, or you can confront them and close this chapter once and for all." For days, I wrestled with the decision. Part of me wanted to let silence be the answer, to move on and never look back. But another part knew that if I didn't stand up now, the shadow of their control would linger forever. The choice was made when Lily came home from school one afternoon, her little face pale. "Mummy," she whispered, tugging on my sleeve. "Grandma came to school today. She talked to my teacher. She said we'd be better off living with her." My heart stopped. Ethan looked up from his homework, his jaw tight. "She tried to take us back," he said quietly, eyes blazing with anger far too old for his years. That night, I sat at the kitchen table again, the lawyer's letter spread before me. Enough was enough. The following Sunday, I drove back to my parents' house. The kids stayed with Carla. I wouldn't subject them to another scene. As I pulled into the driveway, memories washed over me. The towering oak tree where I had once played. The porch where I'd dreamed of freedom as a teenager. Now, the house loomed like a fortress of everything I'd left behind. Inside, Mom sat on the couch with Noah in her arms. Vanessa hovered nearby, while Dad read the paper at the kitchen table. It was the same tableau I had grown up with. My mother cooing over someone else, my father hiding behind authority, my sister quietly absorbing the spotlight. I didn't wait for pleasantries. I dropped the letter on the coffee table. "We need to talk." Mom's face tightened. Dad lowered his paper slowly. "This is nonsense," I said, my voice steady. "You know it. Your lawyer knows it. You don't have a legal leg to stand on." Dad cleared his throat. "You owed us. After everything we gave you, what you gave me." My voice cracked, then grew stronger. "You gave me a basement for my children while you gave Vanessa the world. You gave me guilt while you gave her support. And now you try to give me shame with this letter." Mom's lips thinned. "You're twisting things." "We only wanted what was best for Noah," I interrupted. "Always for Noah, always for Vanessa. Never for Ethan and Lily." Silence hung heavy in the room. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably, rocking Noah. "You don't understand," Mom said weakly. "Noah needed us, and my kids didn't." My voice rose, echoing through the house. They needed love. They needed warmth. They needed to feel like they mattered. But you shoved them in a basement and told me I should be grateful. Dad slammed his fist on the arm of his chair. "Watch your tone." "No," I said firmly, my chest heaving. "For the first time, you're going to watch me. I'm not your scapegoat anymore. I'm not the daughter who accepts scraps while you praise my sister. I am their mother, and I will protect them from you if I have to." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. For once, she spoke. "Marissa, I didn't mean yes. You did," I said softly but firmly. "You sent those messages to your friend. You laughed about my kids living in a basement. Don't pretend you didn't." Her face crumpled, guilt spilling out, but I didn't let myself soften. Mum's voice broke. "Marissa, please, don't cut us off. We're family." "Family doesn't treat children like second-class citizens," I said, my voice trembling but clear. "Family doesn't weaponize money and shame. You had a choice. Again and again, you chose Vanessa. Now I'm choosing differently." I stood, my hands shaking, but my spine straight. "You will not contact Ethan and Lily without my permission. You will not show up at their school. If you try, I'll involve the courts. This ends now." For the first time in my life, my parents had no reply. Dad's face was pale with anger, Mum's eyes wide with shock. Vanessa sat frozen, tears dripping silently onto Noah's blanket. I turned and walked out, the slam of the door behind me echoing like the final word in a long, bitter argument. Driving back to the cottage, my hands trembled on the steering wheel. But with each mile, the weight lifted. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the air felt lighter, cleaner. Ethan and Lily burst from the porch, running to meet me. I scooped them into my arms, holding them tight. "Mummy," Ethan asked, breathless. "Did you tell them?" "Yes," I whispered into his hair. "I told them everything." Lily's voice was small. "Are they still mad?" "Maybe," I said honestly. "But it doesn't matter. What matters is us. This is our home now. Our life." In the months that followed, things began to shift. The heater was fixed, thanks to Carla's husband. My work schedule stabilized, and I found a rhythm that balanced long shifts with real time for the kids. Bills were still tight, but we managed. Slowly, the cottage filled with warmth, not from perfect furniture or expensive decor, but from laughter, painted walls, and memories being made. Ethan's asthma eased in the fresh air. Lily blossomed in her choir, her voice carrying through the house like sunlight and sound. I found myself smiling more, even humming again as I cooked dinner, after long shifts. One spring evening, we sat on the porch, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Lily leaned against me, humming softly. Ethan stretched out on the step, his bear beside him. "Mom," he said suddenly, his voice thoughtful. "I'm glad we left. I like it here. It feels safe." My throat tightened, tears threatening. "That's all I ever wanted for you," I whispered. Lily tilted her head up at me. "We're not going back, right?" "Never," I promised, kissing her forehead as the stars began to appear. I realized something profound. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was healing. We had walked through betrayal, through cruelty, through loss, but in the end, we had found something greater than what we'd lost. We had found freedom. We had found home.